The General Dynamics F-16 Fighting Falcon is a single-engine multi-role fighter aircraft originally developed by General Dynamics for the United States Air Force. Designed as an air superiority day fighter, it evolved into a successful all-weather multi-role aircraft. Over 4,500 aircraft have been built since production was approved in 1976. Although no longer being purchased by the U.S. Air Force, improved versions are still being built for re-export customers. In 1993, General Dynamics sold its aircraft manufacturing business to the Lockheed Corporation, which in turn became part of Lockheed Martin after a 1995 merger with Martin Marietta. The Fighting Falcon has key features including a frameless bubble canopy for better visibility, side-mounted control stick to ease control while maneuvering, a seat reclined 30 degrees to reduce the effect of G-forces on the pilot, and the first use of a relaxed static stability, fly-by-wire flight control system which helps to make it a nimble aircraft. The F-16 has an internal M61 Vulcan cannon and 11 locations for mounting weapons and other mission equipment. The F-16's official name is Fighting Falcon, but Viper is commonly used by its pilots and crews, due to a perceived resemblance to a Viper snake as well as the Battlestar Galactica Colonial Viper starfighter. In addition to active-duty U.S. Air Force Reserve Command, and Air National Guard units, the aircraft is also used by the USAF Aerial Demonstration Team, the U.S. Air Force Thunderbirds, and as an aggressor aircraft by the United States Navy. The F-16 has also been procured to serve in the air forces of 25 other nations. As of 2015, it is the second most common currently operational military aircraft in the world. Development. Lightweight fighter program experiences in the Vietnam War revealed the need for air superiority fighters and better air-to-air training for fighter pilots. Based on his experiences in the Korean War and as a fighter tactics instructor in the early 1960s, Colonel John Boyd with mathematician Thomas Christie developed the energy maneuverability theory to model a fighter aircraft's performance in combat. Boyd's work called for a small, lightweight aircraft that could maneuver with the minimum possible energy loss, and which also incorporated an increased thrust-to-weight ratio. In the late 1960s, Boyd gathered a group of like-minded innovators that became known as the Fighter Mafia, and in 1969 they secured Department of Defense funding for General Dynamics and Northrop to study design concepts based on the theory. Air Force FX proponents remained hostile to the concept because they perceived it as a threat to the F-15 program. However, the Air Force's leadership understood that its budget would not allow it to purchase enough F-15 aircraft to satisfy all of its missions. The Advanced Day Fighter concept, renamed FXX, gained civilian political support under the reform-minded Deputy Secretary of Defense David Packard, who favored the idea of competitive prototyping. As a result, in May 1971, the Air Force Prototype Study Group was established, with Boyd a key member, and 2 of its 6 proposals would be funded, one being the lightweight fighter. The request for proposals issued on 6 January 1972 called for a 20,000-pound class air-to-air day fighter with a good turn rate, acceleration and range, and optimized for combat at speeds of Mach 0.6–1.6 and altitudes of 30,000–40,000 feet. This was the region where USAF studies predicted most future air combat would occur. The anticipated average flyaway cost of a production version was $3 million. This production plan, though, was only notional as the USAF had no firm plans to procure the winner. Finalists selected and fly-off 5 companies responded, and in 1972, the Air Staff selected General Dynamics Model 401 and Northrop's P600 for the follow-on prototype development and testing phase. GD and Northrop were awarded contracts worth $37.9 million and $39.8 million to produce the YF-16 and YF-17, respectively, with first flights of both prototypes planned for early 1974. To overcome resistance in the Air Force hierarchy, the fighter mafia and other LWF proponents successfully advocated the idea of complementary fighters in a high-cost, low-cost force mix. The high-low mix would allow the USAF to be able to afford sufficient fighters for its overall fighter force structural requirements. The mix gained broad acceptance by the time of the prototype's fly-off, defining the relationship of the LWF and the F-15. The YF-16 was developed by a team of General Dynamics engineers led by Robert H. Whitmire. The first YF-16 was rolled out on 13 December 1973, and its 90-minute maiden flight was made at the Air Force Flight Test Center at Edwards AFB, California, on 2 February 1974. Its actual first flight occurred accidentally during a high-speed taxi test on 20 January 1974. While gathering speed, a roll control oscillation caused a fin of the port side wingtip-mounted missile and then the starboard stabilator to scrape the ground, and the aircraft then began to veer off the runway. The test pilot, Philly Stritcher, decided to lift off to avoid a potential crash, safely landing 6 minutes later. The slight damage was quickly repaired and the official first flight occurred on time. The YF-16's first supersonic flight was accomplished on 5 February 1974, and the second YF-16 prototype first flew on 9 May 1974. This was followed by the first flights of Northrop's YF-17 prototypes on 9 June and 21 August 1974, respectively. During the fly-off, the YF-16s completed 330 sorties for a total of 417 flight hours. The YF-17s flew 288 sorties, covering 345 hours. Air combat fighter competition. Increased interest would turn the LWF into a serious acquisition program. North Atlantic Treaty Organization allies Belgium, Denmark, the Netherlands, and Norway were seeking to replace their F-104G fighter bombers. In early 1974, they reached an agreement with the U.S. that if the USAF ordered the LWF winner, they would consider ordering it as well. The USAF also needed to replace its F-105 and F-4 fighter bombers. The U.S. Congress sought greater commonality in fighter procurements by the Air Force and Navy, and in August 1974 redirected Navy funds to a new Navy air combat fighter program that would be a navalized fighter-bomber variant of the LWF. The four NATO allies had formed the Multinational Fighter Program Group and pressed for a U.S. decision by December 1974, thus the USAF accelerated testing. To reflect this serious intent to procure a new fighter bomber, the LWF program was rolled into a new air combat fighter competition in an announcement by U.S. Secretary of Defense James R. Schlesinger in April 1974. Schlesinger also made it clear that any ACF order would be in addition to the F-15, which extinguished opposition to the LWF. ACF also raised the stakes for GD and Northrop because it brought in competitors intent on securing what was touted at the time as the arms deal of the century. These were Dassault Breguet's proposed Mirage F1M53, the SEPECAT Jaguar, and the proposed Saab 37E Eurofighter. Northrop offered the P530 Cobra, which was similar to the YF-17. The Jaguar and Cobra were dropped by the MFPG early on, leaving 2 European and the 2 US candidates. On the 11th of September 1974, the U.S. Air Force confirmed plans to order the winning ACF design to equip 5 tactical fighter wings. Though computer modeling predicted a close contest, the F-16 proved significantly quicker going from one maneuver to the next, and was the unanimous choice of those pilots that flew both aircraft. On 13 January 1975, Secretary of the Air Force John L. McLucas announced the F-16 as the winner of the ACF competition. The chief reasons given by the Secretary were the F-16's lower operating costs, greater range, and maneuver performance that was significantly better than that of the F-17, especially at supersonic speeds. Another advantage of the F-16, unlike the F-17, was its use of the Pratt & Whitney F-100 turbofan engine, the same power plant used by the F-15. Such commonality would lower the cost of engines for both programs. Secretary McLucas announced that the USAF planned to order at least 650, possibly up to 1,400 production F-16s in the Navy Air Combat Fighter competition. On 2 May 1975, the Navy selected the F-17 as the basis for what would become the McDonnell Douglas F/A-18 Hornet. Into production. The U.S. Air Force initially ordered 15 full-scale development aircraft for its flight test program, but this was reduced to 8. The F-16 design was altered for the production F-16. The fuselage was lengthened by 10.6 in. A larger nose radome was fitted for the APG-66 radar. Wing area was increased from 280 square feet to 300 square feet. The tailfin height was decreased. The ventral fins were enlarged. 2 more stores stations were added, and a single door replaced the original nosewheel double doors. The F-16's weight was increased by 25% over the F-16 by these modifications. The FSD F-16s were manufactured by General Dynamics in Texas at United States Air Force Plant 4 in late 1975. The first F-16A rolled out on 20 October 1976 and first flew on 8 December. The initial two-seat model achieved its first flight on 8 August 1977. The initial production standard F-16A flew for the first time on 7 August 1978, and its delivery was accepted by the USAF on 6 January 1979. The F-16 was given its formal nickname of Fighting Falcon on 21 July 1980, entering USAF operational service with the 34th Tactical Fighter Squadron, 388th Tactical Fighter Wing at Hill AFB in Utah on 1 October 1980. On 7 June 1975, the 4 European partners, now known as the European Participation Group, signed up for 348 aircraft at the Paris Air Show. This was split among the European Participation Air Forces as 116 for Belgium, 58 for Denmark, 102 for the Netherlands, and 72 for Norway. 2 European production lines, one in the Netherlands at Rtphokie's Schiphol-Oost facility and the other at SABC's Gosselies plant in Belgium, would produce 184 and 164 units respectively. Norway's Kongsberg Våpenfabrik and Denmark's Terma A/S also manufactured parts and sub-assemblies for EPAF aircraft. European co-production was officially launched on 1 July 1977 at the Fokker factory. Beginning in November 1977, Fokker-produced components were sent to Fort Worth for fuselage assembly, then shipped back to Europe for final assembly of EPAF aircraft at the Belgian plant on 15 February 1978. Deliveries to the Belgian Air Force began in January 1979. The first Royal Netherlands Air Force aircraft was delivered in June 1979. In 1980, the first aircraft were delivered to the Royal Norwegian Air Force by SABCA and to the Royal Danish Air Force by Fokker. During the late 1980s and 1990s, Turkish aerospace industries produced 232 Block 30, 40/50ths F-16s on a production line in Ankara under license for the Turkish Air Force. TAI also produced 46 Block 40s for Egypt in the mid-1990s and 30 Block 50 from 2010. Korean aerospace industries opened a production line for the F-16 program, producing 140 Block 52s from the mid-1990s to mid-2000s. If India had selected the F-16IN for its medium multi-role combat aircraft procurement, a sixth F-16 production line would be built in India. In May 2013, Lockheed Martin stated there were currently enough orders to keep producing the F-16 until 2017. Improvements and upgrades. One change made during production was augmented pitch control to avoid deep stall conditions at high angles of attack. The stall issue had been raised during development, but had originally been discounted. Model tests of the YF-16 conducted by the Langley Research Center revealed a potential problem, but no other laboratory was able to duplicate it. YF-16 flight tests were not sufficient to expose the issue. Later flight testing on the FSD aircraft demonstrated there was a real concern. In response, the areas of the horizontal stabilizer were increased 25% on the Block 15 aircraft in 1981 and later retrofitted to earlier aircraft. In addition, a manual override switch to disable the horizontal stabilizer flight limiter was prominently placed on the control console, allowing the pilot to regain control of the horizontal stabilizers and recover. Besides reducing the risk of deep stalls, the larger horizontal tail also improved stability and permitted faster takeoff rotation. In the 1980s, the multinational staged improvement program was conducted to evolve the F-16's capabilities, mitigate risks during technology development, and ensure the aircraft's worth. The program upgraded the F-16 in 3 stages. The MSIP process permitted the quick introduction of new capabilities, at lower costs and with reduced risks compared to traditional independent upgrade programs. In 2012, the USAF had allocated $2.8 billion to upgrade 350 F-16s while waiting for the F-35 to enter service. One key upgrade has been an auto-GCAS to reduce instances of controlled flight into terrain. Onboard power and cooling capacities limits the scope of upgrades, which often involves the addition of more power-hungry avionics. Lockheed won many contracts to upgrade foreign operators' F-16s. BAE Systems also offers various F-16 upgrades, receiving orders from South Korea, Oman, Turkey, and the U.S. Air National Guard. BAE lost the South Korean contract due to a price breach in November 2014. In 2012, the USAF assigned the total upgrade contract to Lockheed Martin. Upgrades include Raytheon's Center Display Unit, which replaces several analog flight instruments with a single digital display. In 2013, sequestration budget cuts cast doubt on the USAF's ability to complete the Combat Avionics Programmed Extension Suite, a part of secondary programs such as Taiwan's F-16 upgrade. ACC's General Mike Hostage stated that if he only had money for SLEP or CAPES, he would fund SLEP to keep the aircraft flying. Lockheed Martin responded to talk of CAPES cancellation with a fixed-price upgrade package for foreign users. CAPES was not included in the Pentagon's 2015 budget request. The USAF said that the upgrade package will still be offered to Taiwan, and Lockheed said that some common elements with the F-35 will keep the radar's unit costs down. In 2014, the USAF issued a RFI to SLEP 300 F-16C Ds.